Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this session. I'm Ebru Ilhan, and I'm part of the Women's Forum editorial team. I'm pleased to welcome you to All Green Jobs Are STEM Jobs. What a provocative title. And to set the scene for us, I'm delighted to hand over to Laurence Pessez. She's the Global Head of CSR at BNP Paribas. She will be delivering a powerful message on this important issue. Over to you, Laurence.
Thank you, Ebru. Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be with you today. So let's get started without waiting. So 2020, as you all know, is the first year of the decade during which we can act to give us a chance to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals. At the same time, the COVID pandemic is forcing major changes in most organizations, and we'll see a consensus for rebuilding better. Since the beginning of the crisis, we've seen many major countries taking net zero commitments, and while climate action, protecting the environment are among the top priorities of most of the recovery plans. So consequently, we expect going forward that most jobs will include a green component. So green is going to make it mainstream. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that innovations will be required to speed up the green transitions. So we'll need highly qualified entrepreneurs coming up with bold innovations. So we face a lifetime opportunity we have to catch. And as we don't want to miss it, at the Women for Climate Daring Circle, which BNP Paribas has the honor to lead, we've been working for a while to identify the key drivers and the initiatives needed to link green transition and women empowerment. So the idea is really to enable women to lead actions against climate change and make sure the disproportionate impact of climate change on women is properly addressed. So we know that at least two drivers of the transition to the green economy will be STEM and entrepreneurship. These disciplines will provide innovations in technologies and business models, which will be vital. We also know that when women are involved in climate action as leaders, but also as equal participants, they do better. Sorry for that, Fabrice, but it's a fact. There is a lot of literature on the subject, and we all have practical examples in mind. When women are involved, the solutions are more effective, more innovative, more pragmatic. So unfortunately, right now, women are underrepresented and disadvantaged both in STEM and in entrepreneurship. So this situation has many consequences. First, we miss their brains, their innovation capacity, their creativity. But even more important, if women are not equal participants in the industries and areas of our industry, of our economy, which will drive the green growth, there is a high risk that women won't benefit from the transformation. So it's critical that we apply an intersectional approach across climate, entrepreneurship, and STEM to make the climate action as effective and inclusive as it has to be. So this is the call made by the research of the Women for Climate Daring Circle this year. So organizations can do a number of things to improve the situation. Let me share with you 3 ideas. First one is they can promote an understanding of the gendered aspects of climate action. And believe me, it's not that obvious. The Daring Circle has developed a fantastic toolkit to help on this. So you can use it whenever you deliver training to your staff or even in your day-to-day conversation. Second, organizations can make sure they have enough women in STEM-based activities. For example, at BNP Paribas, we are working hard to increase the share of women in STEM-based activities when they are traditionally underrepresented, such as, for example, our global markets activity, where, by the way, green business is booming. So we're very happy, as a result, to have women in leading positions inside the company, structuring green bonds, creating green indices, and they're doing very well, and they're acting as role models inside and outside the company. And last but not least, corporates and organizations can actively support green entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs. We at the bank know too well that when it comes to financing, women face increased difficulties. And no need to say that the subject is even more accurate when the business we want to start or to grow is a green one, innovative, potentially more risky. So we've secured a 2 billion euros envelope dedicated to women entrepreneurship, and we are working hard to remove the barriers at decision-making levels. So that were the introductory remarks I wanted to make, Ebru, and I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laurence. That was very inspirational and a great scene setter for us. Before I move us into the panel and introduce our moderator, a quick reminder to follow and engage with the session on social media using hashtags Women for Climate Action and hashtag Women for STEM. Our audience, please ask your questions by writing them up in the chat box, and our very skilled moderator will be able to draw from it and raise it in her session. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Nina Gardner. She's Director of Strategy International and Adjunct Professor of Corporate Sustainability at Johns Hopkins SAIS in Washington, D.C. Nina, over to you.
Welcome to everybody. I can't believe this is my 14th year doing the Women's Forum, and we have really moved forward on the issues since we started. I am very, very pleased to have some heavy hitters on my panel. Fabrice Bonnifet, Sustainable Development Director, and Quality, Safety, and Environment, all incredibly important issues, from Bouygues. The Bouygues group, huge group, not in an easy sector for women, and we'll talk about that. Guillemot, Managing Director of KPMG France, also doing amazing work on these subjects in the services sector and consulting. We'll hear from her soon. And Marianne Laigneau, Chairman of the Management Board of Enedis, in energy and electricity, electric utility. Very exciting. I just wanted to open this panel with a few sort of an overview. I think Laurence gave us some very inspiring remarks. And I have to say that the Daring Circle group, the climate change group, has done amazing work. And if you haven't read the report that they've just issued, you all must read it, because I thought I knew a lot about sort of the energy transition. I follow these issues because I consult with energy companies, but this is extraordinary, okay? But just for those who are not following these issues, according to the International Renewable Energy Agency, the energy transition is going to create about 63 million new jobs by 2030 in renewable energy, efficiency, infrastructure, and many other sectors, which means companies in these sectors and others will need to rely on STEM skills. So we're here to discuss how to make sure women are part of this solution, right? Are part of this discussion, because we cannot afford to leave them behind in this transition. And so we also will be hearing from these companies as to what are some concrete steps to make sure this energy transition includes women. 75% of the jobs of the future will be in STEM jobs, let's face it. I probably wouldn't be hired, and can promise to be more meaningful in the past. It'd be like green IT manager, environmental technicians, green builders, architects, these kind of jobs, which I think sound more exciting for women than just sort of a oil engineer. Nothing against oil engineers, but that is the kind of thing that we're looking toward. So in sum, there are new solutions to old problems, will require a new mix of people skilled in STEM competencies. And this is where we want to see the women. So without further ado, I wanted to, I'll be asking all of you some questions, but the most important question really to Fabrice, but all of you, is what are your companies doing to prepare yourselves for this necessary green and more inclusive transition, right? Because it's not only green, it's about inclusivity. And I'll start with Fabrice first, in the most difficult of all sectors.
Yeah, it's a challenge to explain that in only 5 minutes, but the awareness to stop pretending to feminize teams is relatively recent in our job. 10 years ago, there was a sort of inevitability of non-presence of women with which the management easily agreed. The simplistic explanation was our trades are always been very male. The training of engineers, technicians, and especially construction workers has promotion with a very large majority of men. It is therefore normal that there are few women in the operational teams and therefore almost no women in the management teams. Construction activities have been and still are to some extent activities in which physical strength can be exercised, but this is less and less true since mechanization became widespread. And most of today's construction trades do not require intense physical commitment, so this false excuse is no longer valid. Management responsibility is to give confidence to women who are interested in our construction and public work professions. And this is what we are now doing by giving them responsibilities on construction site very early, by promoting them more and more to position of responsibility, and by also increasing the number of women of the management committees of our operational units. We have quantified commitments of more than 20% women in management committees by 2022, and the target will be increased after the date. The ecological transition is an opportunity to feminization of our profession and activities. In fact, low carbon construction models, and in particular wood construction, will end up completely eliminating the hardship factor which remain attached to the construction sector. Timber construction is more about assembly and disassembly with a lot of handling of heavy material. As for all economic sector, construction must reinvent itself quickly if we want to respect the Paris Agreement, which requires us to divide GHG emission by 2 before 2030. More than ever, we must integrate in our purpose ecological and social components. Building by polluting and artificializing soil is no longer suitable for anymore, at least for people who are clear-headed about the challenges we face. Feminizing teams is a matter of survival of our activities. We need more diversity to reinvent ourselves. Building horizons free require rethinking everything from design, manufacturing, process, and operation. Women and more environmentally conscious than men, that's a fact. It's up to us to take advantage of the advantages of feminization to make the ecological transition success. We are proactive in acceleration feminization to do this. To this, in this context of school oration, we present our different professions by insisting on the fact that all these professions can be accessible to women. To finish, we are rethinking the ergonomic of our workstation to take into account the physical specificity of male and female companions in addition to their age. We have completely harmonized the salaries between men and women with equal skills. We have created a network of women that so that they can express themselves more easily, have the same right as men, and denounce the stereotype that still exists.
Wow. Wow. This is really earth-shattering, folks, because this is not at all what I would think of in terms of construction. So Bouygues is really changing stereotypes, the whole idea, as you were saying, that you don't have to be, it's not so much a question of strength in the construction, because now it's a completely different way of doing, of designing and constructing. And so this might have even gotten me excited about joining Bouygues if I were younger, right? Because this shows purpose. This is the purpose that women are looking for, because they want to be part of something. In the energy transition. So I think this is quite extraordinary. And if I will come back to you, because I want to move on to our other speakers. But again, I will ask you exactly what kind of skills, so because there might be some young women listening, what kind of skills are you looking for and will be looking for? And then what your greatest challenges and triumphs. But I now move to KPMG. Because Marie was telling us in our prep call some very interesting statistics on how KPMG is really pushing on this energy transition within the company, but also when they're advising their clients. So Marie, if you could share these statistics with us, because they were, I have to say, they made my day.
Okay, thank you, Nina. First of all, I would like to share with you any additional insights and convictions. As you know, at KPMG, each year we interview more than 1,000 CEOs about key challenges on their agenda. And this year, our internal CEO survey highlights that addressing climate change and inequalities, which have been increased by the pandemic, is a global imperative. And since last year, climate change is on the top of their agenda. In addition to that, the CEO's #1 challenge, according to this post-COVID survey, is to have the right talents to lead growth in the future, a sustainable growth for the future. And this is why I think, like Laurence Pessez, that I have a unique opportunity to reinvent business models, as you mentioned, also Fabrice, and not only business model, but also role models. And this requires a full cooperation of a diversity of talents. And those talents require more and more STEM profiles, and digital and data are really critical to shape new models of farming, of greener mobilities, of smart cities, of new industry models or finance. This is also, and there is also a need for more inclusive and entrepreneurial leadership, because we need to scale up those initiatives now and to lead a change. And this is where I'm convinced that we need to be intentional to close the gender gap. And at KPMG, in fact, our social purpose is to inspire confidence and empower change. And it really illustrates our action to address the women's challenges as well as the climate trends. And here, a professional firm, a professional service firm, we need our responsibility is both to execute against our own ESG target, and moreover to support our clients through their transformation journey.
That is very interesting, because that I'd like to hear more about how you influence your clients.
Yes, and in terms of our action on the market is, in fact, where working with our clients is how we can have the greater impact through awareness and transforming project managers, and to embed systematically the ESG dimensions in all our clients' engagement, we launched KPMG Impact, which is a program to address those strategic priorities: ESG, decarbonization, sustainable finance. And our ambition is to help our clients raise the bar in terms of awareness and address the critical issues of today with positive impact, and also anticipate the next challenges in terms of greener economy and sustainable finance. And to reach it, we have ring-fenced all diversity of experts across the globe in a center of excellence to move at a highest pace towards our side by side with our clients. And this is where we see an accelerator really on the market. In addition to that, we have also launched programs with academics where we also raise the bar in terms of awareness. And we try to embed social and environmental application of STEM in the job and in the programs, in the academic programs, and let the audience imagine the jobs that STEM skills can make available to them.
Sorry, just to interrupt on that is very important, right? Because a lot of these young women, it's like, how are these skills useful? How can I apply them in something that I actually care and believe in, right? That is important for all young people, but particularly women, right? To go into STEM. So the fact that you're doing that is really important.
Yeah. They need to feel the sense of purpose behind the jobs that we are conducted at our clients and behind the STEM skills. And so our women, and I try to say that we have fabulous women leading sustainability, digital practices, DNA practices, or digital and analytics practice. And also our expert of blockchain is a woman. And all together, they are working with business and engineer schools to explain the needs for gender careers in STEM. And we have CSR chair partnerships like with Odeja, specific sustainability courses in engineering schools, so that's Central, ESCP, or training for our customers via KPMG Academy. So this is something that we leverage very much to help us attract and retain talent to conduct growth in sustainability services and really to create out these capabilities to our clients.
Well, that's fantastic, because one of the issues that keeps coming back in all of the women's forums that I've ever listened to is the retention issue.
Yeah.
So maybe this green and more inclusive transition will help take care of the retention issue. There's still problems with managing the sort of the life balance, but if people want to come back because they care about their job, because they're actually making a difference, or they feel they're making a difference, you might be able to retain more people. Thank you very much for this. I will move to Marianne. Last but not least, but it's extremely important because obviously you're in the energy sector. And so if you could share with us, what the green energy jobs are of the future. It's easier for you in a way because you're in the energy sector. And I would love to hear how are you engaging with society? How are you attracting women at Enedis?
Thank you. This is a very important question, and I think we must acknowledge, first of all, that despite a lot of efforts from everybody and everywhere, there are still too few women in STEM jobs in industry. Of course, progress has been made in recent years in the industry sector, in the energy sector as well, but there remain, let's say, a dominated playing field. So what it does take is really to convince young women to choose industry, to choose energy as early as possible. If you are looking to some figures, because I think we need to measure
Always
where we are and where we want to go, women in industry, 30%. It has been stable for the last 30 years. while of course their representation in other sectors like services increased by 50%. Women in management position in industry, 20% on average. If you're looking to engineering schools in France, women represent 28%, 18 only in IT schools, to be compared with 50% in management schools. So first of all, it's about recruiting and attracting young women. They account now only for 27% of digital jobs and 12% in artificial intelligence. It is not enough. Of course, it's also about paying women, about equal pay, and the gender gap in France is still around 50%. In industry, let's say 5%. So it has been improving. It depends on job categories. However, we can see that women are overrepresented in lower paid occupations, especially in industry. So first of all, the key, I think, it's measuring. So what are we doing at Enedis, which is, as you mentioned, the French distribution electricity system operator, which is the largest one in Europe. We are bringing electricity to 37 million of customers. We are measuring where we are and where we want to be. So where are we? Women make up 24% of our workforce, plus 5% to 2 years ago. In technical position, 20%, 30% are, let's say, cadre in French, we can translate by executives. And we are measuring also their position within management boards, almost 27%, and top executive position, being, let's say, CEO of business unit or members of ExCom. So first, the first leverage is to measure and to have a clear roadmap. And it is key because, as you mentioned, we are in the middle of a crisis. And this crisis accelerates, I think, the need for change, for more inclusive way of managing, of recruiting, of training people, of promoting people. It's also an opportunity for us to reinvent, of course, our sector, the energy sector, the industry sector, and to convince young women that they can be part of the game. What do we need to do? So we need to push for action, I think. Really, it's time for action. It's time to push the reset button and to develop, for example, new ways of working, of living, and to offer them a more resilient way of working. And it has been said, the expectations of our clients, but also of our people. So it's a great opportunity to align the let's say, internal expectation of a company and the expectations of our customers. Inclusive recovery needs a very audacious vision for the future. And from my perspective, it's not only about inclusion and diversity. It's about performance. It's about preparing the future. So it's not taking care of a minority. If I may, I would mention the very famous words of Chinese President Mao. You know them. A woman holds up half of the sky. So we are representing half of the sky. And within Enedis, but also with other companies, we are very committed to transform our industry, our sector, to attract more women. For example, our female employees, they are volunteers to go into schools, to meet young girls, to talk with them, to explain what it is about, what is a job in an infrastructure like our company, and to do that with girls around, let's say, 15, in order to convince them that, yes, it is possible for them to have a very interesting and diverse career within a company like like Enedis. And you will see next week our campaign, our advertising campaign, and it's completely mixed because 6 employees from Enedis, 3 women, and we choose women working as data scientists, as electrical network pilots, and also as Paris manager, to precisely to show the diversity of jobs they can have in an energy transition, in a green development, which is the development of course, of our company, but also of the energy sector and in France. So you need to have targets. If I'm coming back to my previous figures, our target is to have 30% of women in management, managing board, and also 30% as top executive in 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
It's quite ambitious.
So big, very ambitious targets. Thank you, Marianne. Those are fantastic figures. It also shows that there's a lot of work to do. But by showing these young women what the prospect is for them in these companies, it's extremely important because they can at least see, what it is that what the goal can be, and that they will be paid equally. And I was actually very happy to hear that Fabrice says in Bouygues there's pay equity in yes. all the jobs. That's extremely important. I wanted to do another round while we wait for questions to come in. One, as I ask about the challenges and triumphs that you've had, because not everything works, right? Some people may be, some companies may be different parts of this journey. Some of you here, at least our speakers here, are quite advanced on the journey, and having targets and benchmarks shows that a lot has been thought about it. Some companies are just tuning in and figuring out how they can make sure that this transition is more equitable and inclusive, and of course green. So all of these words, everyone is hanging on your words, taking notes, but they'd also like to know what hasn't worked. So if you can share that, and again, when you're, in addition to that, if you can be specific, I asked Fabrice to be specific on what STEM skills you're really looking for, so the girls can go, in school right now, can start preparing for a job at Bouygues or Enedis, or of course KPMG, but they already have a head of IT and the head of DNA, and they have the head of blockchain. I can't believe this. This is fantastic, really fantastic news. Okay, Fabrice.
According to me, the key skills for young girls to succeed in sustainable construction trade are the same as for men. It is the management which must evolve to no longer consider that our profession are male, because they have always been male. Sustainable construction requires changing everything in the constructive model, and it is for us an opportunity to definitely break with this with old habits. It's the problem for us today. It's not the male or female. It's to change our mindset.
Okay, that is very useful, because mindset is probably culture, and mindset's the hardest thing to change, especially at the top of the companies. So thank you, Fabrice, for that. Marie, you have anything to add?
Maybe that we are committed to women empowerment and female leadership and mentoring programs for years now, but the challenge really is to accelerate, and those programs are really benefit to women over time, but somehow we need to really accelerate now and have also more higher recruitment of female engineers, just to nurture our parity in IT and data analytics practices. Each year in France, we recruit more than 150 engineers. There are more than 500 today, but we need more. As I said a few minutes ago, digital is really critical, and we need to have women in this area. women can also alert and detect and alert, I would say, data bias. So we need to really mirror consumer, mirror companies, mirror society, and we need this diversity of talents. We can't avoid 50% of talents. So this is where we intensify our efforts. And what could be done to accelerate these is to ensure that we have clarity around incentives within the partnership, for instance, around diversity, but also around ESG targets and all that kind of ESG targets that we need to share and address all together. So
okay, thank you.
Point for next year.
Thank you. And a quick for Marianne, because we have questions are pouring in, so that's great. Good means we're eliciting some reaction here. Marianne, anything in terms of what has worked and what has not worked? And then we'll have questions, and then I'll ask you about a call to action to wrap up. So, Marianne.
So maybe not working, but more difficult. It's when our colleagues, female colleagues, they turn 30, 35, let's say after the first child, maybe they can be less motivated to break the ceiling glass. And what we to go to for the next step. So we decided to propose to them to have a mentor. Can be a female top executive. It can also be a male. I think women and diversity. It's also men business. It's not only a women business. To offer them the opportunity to discuss, let's say, in a more private and off way with someone, to share problems, to share difficulties, and to find practical solutions for them to overcome what could be a difficult period. So you're right, not everything is working, because if everything were working, every company were doing the right thing, we would not have this type of conversation. So
yeah.
We need to go and push by not being in a theory, but calling for actions, concrete, very practical, concrete actions in proximity with these younger professionals, and answering to their expectations.
Thank you. So we have some questions here. So one of them was, of course, what concrete actions, and this would be for Fabrice, would you recommend to improve the number of females hired in technical or managing positions? From Marie-Cécile Goldblum, Lafarge. So, trying to get some good information from you on what is working. And another great question, what about older women, right? So in terms of capacity building is so dependent on women having role models and mentors. There won't be role models for these new professions so much for the women. Men are so good at this and sets them up for success. This is from Angela James from Aligned, CEO of Aligned. So Fabrice, that first question, and maybe, I don't know who wants to take the older women capacity, maybe even Marianne, I would say. How do you do that, the capacity building? That's hard. And maybe, or Marie, how do you advise women, companies that you're working on? But Marie, maybe, Marianne, Fabrice, and then Marianne, and then we have to wrap it up. Fabrice, quickly, how are, Lafarge wants to know. What are your pearls of wisdom? So Lafarge wants to know what concrete actions to improve the number of females hired in technical and managing positions. I think you said basically, do a rethink for the managing board. But what concretely, what would you suggest to someone from Lafarge who wants to learn?
I think the question is only the capability of management to understand the target, the stake. And it's a problem, but according to me, it's a problem of mindset of top management. It's only that.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's not an easy thing to change, but thank you for that. And what about older women? Marianne, what are you suggesting in terms of role models for the older women in the company? How can we help them?
You're right. It's not only about young women. We focus a lot on recruiting and motivating young women, but it's also about older women and let's say all sources of diversity in performance. And sometimes companies are not very comfortable with executive or women, let's say, in the last stage of their career. So we need also to adapt management and job position to be offered to them. It's not maybe only about managing a larger and larger team, but also being able to convey their experience, their motivation, and to still be role model, and to the company to offer them the opportunity and the ways. And we can be very creative, I think, to pass their experience and to bring performance still, let's say, in the last years of her career to the company and to inspire.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 minutes to go. Wrap up. Okay, quickly, call to action on your commitment in 2 seconds or less, each of you. I'll start with Fabrice. Call to action to your colleagues, and you know, what would you like to see to have them do to help this transition?
Only one word.
Well, call to action can be a few more words. The one word is what have you learned from the pandemic, but call to action I think is more important. But if you want to add your one word on the pandemic, you could do that too.
I think it's very important for me to combine transition, ecological transition with a new way to think the future with trust in capability of the humanity to combine male and female to strike climate change together, because we have only 10,000 days to strike to fight climate change, and we have no time to think different.
Waste. Okay, next, Marie, 10,000 days, that's terrifying. Go on. And we have 1 minute.
Yes, for me, it's really to embody your social purpose, because whenever you know what you are standing for or what you are fighting for, it's such a lighthouse, you are in the capacity to move the lines. And really, this is a key learning point from the pandemic. Companies that are led by purpose have a better mobilization of the teams, not only women, but also next generation, all the teams, in fact, through our pandemic, and have a greater chance to adapt for the better, for more sustainable growth. So this is what I would say.
Okay, Marianne.
We've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm sorry, Marianne. I am so sorry. This time was
trust.
Trust. Okay.
Yeah, trust. The crisis shows us how trust is important, and we need to have trust and confidence in ourselves, each of us, to change the world and to change this situation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks to our audience for joining. To join the next set of sessions, please go back to the live page on the Women's Forum. And with that, I'd like to say goodbye.